welcome to UK Living, the channel which reflects the world we live in and brings you practical advice, new ideas, cookery and entertainment.
Why don't we all dream a little?
Good morning and welcome from Hollywood.
Who wouldn't want to watch this?
Affairs can improve your marriage.
Please, give me a break.
Rachel, what's the problem?
And I'm sort of friends with him, but I'd like to be a bit more than that.
When it comes to sex, think safety first.
There's some great stories that you must be terribly tempted to tell.
Now to something a little different.
Take the old pot and put that in the new one.
Well, now I've got another recipe to show you.
Oh gosh, they are wonderful.
It's delicious and so aromatic.
I want to look like a movie star.
That's just typical of you, then.
How do you hide a gun in a bikini?
Very carefully.
For all you ever wanted to know about living text, select page 200. You'll never be better informed.
Autumn and UK Living's got a brand new look and a brand new lineup with the man of talk, Jerry Springer, while Esther Ranson's on the hunt for hearts of gold. Paula Yates is on the bed.
I think it's our sexual chemistry, though. Hell of a lot of estrogen on this bed this morning.
Bob Eubanks is back with his new series of
Infatuation.
A brand new lineup, a brand new look. Just some of the programmes you can watch this autumn only on UK Living. When an idyllic family life is shattered.
Shut up!
That's my dad. He's fixing the lawn. He's not gonna hurt us.
I did not tell him to drive home alone! I can't drive this home.
Of course you can. You drove the last 5 miles.
Yeah, you were with me. I'm not that stupid! He wants me to say I stole it! I didn't steal it. He told me to take it home. Can't wake up! It's Brian's birthday, remember? Hey, happy birthday!
It's my birthday.
You hear me? Shut up!
Shattered Spirits, tonight at 9 on UK Living. What can it be?
We need another clue.
What's the key word?
How much longer can this go on?
We're so close to the answer.
Fuck me, I knew.
Who's in control here?
Never a crossword, all right? Take care of yourselves.
Crosswits with Tom O'Connor, today at 4:30 on UK Living. Keep the tissues nearby. Hearts of Gold this morning at 10 on UK Living. Now more problems discussed in Agony Hour.
Hello, I'm Catherine Holloway. Welcome to today's Agony Hour. With me is our Agony Aunt Christine Webber, and she's going to be dealing with your letters, and we'll be taking your phone calls, of course. Also, later in the programme, we'll be discussing the dilemma of dieting. Some women spend their whole lives, don't they, trying out new ones. But can diets alone keep off the pounds, or do they bring any sort of happiness? Well, I'll be talking to one woman who lost 5 stone only to put it all back on again, and another who's lost the same amount in just 15 months and is determined to keep it off. So here's how the programme looks. We'll kick off though with our bouquet of the day, which today is going to Judy Maguire. Judy's been nominated by Jenny Maguire, and this is Jenny's letter. She says, I'd like to nominate my mum Judy for a bouquet as I'm a student and I don't have a lot of money, and I'd be very grateful if you could send her some flowers on my behalf. I feel she's especially deserving of a bouquet as she's been on her own for the past few months as my dad is working abroad and my sister and I no longer live at home. She's coped so well and hasn't complained at all. She's going to visit my dad for just over 2 weeks, and she's always said that all she's ever wanted was a family. I'd like her to know how special she is and that she's all I could ever want in a mum. She's always been there for me and she always makes me smile, and I'm sure she would love the flowers. Well, Jenny, I hope she thoroughly enjoys the trip and that she enjoys the flowers. We'll make sure we send them after she gets back, as you've given us the dates. Now, the bouquet's going to come courtesy of Safeway, and if you're sitting there and think, well, I know somebody who deserves a bouquet of the day, write to us with their name and address and let us know how they've helped you or someone else. And I can give you that address in a few moments' time. But first of all, we have callers on the line. And our first caller waiting is Cynthia. Hello, Cynthia.
Hello.
Hi, Cynthia. What's the matter?
I've got a problem with my husband. Actually, he drinks a lot lately. I mean, it's been 2 years now. He doesn't drink like from Monday till Friday.
No.
He's quite a good husband during those days. Then when it comes to Friday night, Saturday and Sunday, he drinks continuously, doesn't eat, and he becomes violent verbally.
Oh, dear.
Of which I've got a 14-year-old child, and I feel so scared myself.
Yes. Yes.
So I really don't know what to do because I found the counselling.
Yes.
And he said to me, I mean, he doesn't want to go to the counselling. He doesn't have any problem.
Yeah.
So I'm just wanting to, to ask whether, do you know anyone who can help me?
Yes.
Someone who can come to my house and talk to him because he doesn't want to do anything at all.
Cynthia, this is a very difficult problem, and I mean, the harsh truth behind this really is that when somebody is addicted to a form of behaviour, and although your husband, as you say, is a sort of model husband through the week, clearly he really has a problem with taking alcohol at the weekend, and you don't have to be sort of rolling in the gutter and drinking mess to be an alcoholic. It's a sort of attitude of mind as much as anything else, and it does sound to me as if your husband has got a real problem. The trouble with anybody with a real problem with addiction is that you cannot bring anybody to them to get the help. That's just one of life's unfairnesses, I suppose, if you like. He has got to go and get this help himself, and I can assure you that if you were to ring, say, Alcoholics Anonymous and say, you know, please send round somebody to see this man, they'd say, that's not how we operate. We can't operate like that. We need your husband to accept that he has a problem and to come to us.
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, when I spoke to the lady, one of the counsellors, she told me the same thing, that, I mean, I should talk to him. If he wants to come, yes, they can help, but further to that, there's nothing they can do. So I'm just wanting to find out whether, I mean, is there any way I can get help at all?
Yeah, well, Cynthia, what I think you should do is there's this great group for wives and family members of people who drink too heavily called Al-Anon.
Yes.
And I'm going to get Nikki, who's our researcher, on the phone, the lady you've already spoken to give you that number, because what you need, I think, is to talk to other people in the same situation, and there will be people there who have actually managed to encourage their husbands and their wives, their various partners, into proper counselling. And I think that by talking to other people that are either going through the same thing as you or have gone through the same thing, I think will help you immensely, because it's a very isolating thing, isn't it, being the partner of somebody with this...
Really, because as it is now, I mean, I'm seeing the doctor.
Yes.
Because it's affecting me so much.
Yes, I'm not surprised.
I'm going under stress now.
Yeah, yeah. You say that he doesn't actually hit you, Cynthia, does he?
No, not at all.
But he's verbally aggressive.
He's like, I mean, he's got a grudge. It's like he's got something which he's got, I mean, behind his head, but he doesn't want to say it out.
Yeah. Cynthia, I was going to suggest something very, very practical, if you like, that might just make him come to his senses over the fact that he has a real problem. And I would sit down with him, not in a way where you're sort of it's flying accusations and you're shouting or you sweep out or anything like that. During the early part of the week, before this all starts at the end of the week, you know, God forbid it won't start tonight, but you know, to sit him down and actually say to him, look, I love you very much and you're a perfect husband and father during the early part of the week, but I am actually frightened when you drink. I'm frightened for me and I'm frightened for our daughter. And because of that, I am making arrangements to go away at weekends. And even if you're able, I mean, even if you're sort of calling his bluff in a way and you can only arrange to go, say you store up with all your friends, anybody who owes you a favour or family or whatever, you don't have to go into any of the details, just to arrange to go away with your daughter. And I'm just wondering whether it might bring to him to his senses if he's alone in that house on Saturday or Sunday or flat and he suddenly thinks to himself, you know, this is the third week in a way she's gone away because she is frightened of me.
Well, I think that would be a very good idea, and I think, Cynthia, that would sort of at least make him take stock of the situation. Another thing you might do in the early part of the week when he's being entirely reasonable is to actually sit down with a pen and paper and work out how much he drinks at the weekend. Because, you know, people who overeat, overdrink, oversmoke, whatever it may be, they never want to believe that it's as much as they do. So if you actually, you know, if he does most of his drinking at home, you actually can count the beer bottles or the wine bottles or what have you and actually say, this is how much, you know, these are how many units. And that again might, because I mean clearly he must be drinking for some reason and maybe he's very unhappy about something, but he's not going to solve it through the drink. He'll only solve it by dealing with that and by actually talking through what the real unhappiness is.
That's true. And there was a brilliant definition of alcoholism which was given on this programme by the chap who runs the Chaucer Clinic in London, and it's something you might like to ask him, particularly if this is driving a wedge between you and you are going to have to go away at weekends with your daughter because of it. He said that a definition of an alcoholic isn't necessarily exactly how much they drink, but when alcohol is costing you more than the price of a drink, and it's obviously costing more than a price of a drink in your family because you're frightened and you two are going to actually physically have to get out of the house at weekends. And you never know, these things combined, if you sit and talk them through sensibly and quietly, might actually bring him to his senses and make him realise he needs some help. But the very, very best of luck to you, because it's a hell of a one to deal with. We've got Chris on the line. Hello, Chris.
Hello.
Hello, Chris. What's the matter?
My problem is that I was abused as a child, and I'm 19 now.
Yes.
I was 11 at the time, and I was abused quite viciously for 2 years.
Do you mean sexually abused, Chris? You do?
Yeah.
And was it by somebody, you know, in the family, a friend, somebody close to you?
It was a friend of the family. He was 74 at the time.
Oh, my goodness.
I know, and he had a friend who used to come round. This friend was 24.
Yes.
And, I mean, I was quite brutally raped on a few occasions by him. It's been reported to the police.
Yes.
And due to a lack of evidence, it was thrown out.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I just really want to know what to do.
Yes. At the time, what happened? Did you get, you know, love and support from your family, or did they sort of think that you were being really rather a nuisance causing all this trouble? I mean, what was it like at that time?
My mum's been really supportive of me. She doesn't understand me.
No.
But my dad was sorry, I'm not going to swear on the line.
No. Right.
My dad wasn't very nice at all.
No.
And at the same time as that all coming out,
yes.
I'm gay as well, which didn't really help.
Yeah, of course, I mean, an awful lot of people that have been through a situation like yours, I mean, what they do wonder when they look back is, you know, they had this early experience. It might have ended up by being brutal, but there were bits of it probably that were titillating and stimulating, and you do look back and you think, you know, would you necessarily have been gay if you hadn't had this first sort of rather curious experience with a bloke? I mean, you know, I think this is the sort of other alternatively, you look back and you think, did they pick me because they knew I was gay? I mean, it's a very conflicting situation for you, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I think now is the
that they spotted you were.
Yeah.
Well, it may be, it may not. I mean, I know somebody very, very well who was sexually abused by a clergyman, and I think quite a lot of that goes on. And you know, and he's turned out gay, and you just don't know. When you look back, you think, would he have been gay, or is it because that very first significant experience with these feelings what was with some, you know, somebody of the same gender? So now I think the best thing you can do, Chris, first of all, are you still living at home or not?
Yeah, I still live with my mum.
Right. Is your dad still at home or not?
No, my mum and dad split up.
I see. So from that point of view, you haven't got that conflict of him there anyway. I think the best thing you can do, there's a very good group, and it's just for men, called Survivors. I mean, Survivors is a sort of blanket term, and there are a lot of survivors groups up and down the country, but a lot of them are for women survivors of child sexual abuse. But this particular group, which is in central London, and they do a lot of the counselling by phone, is specifically for adult survivors of child sexual abuse, just like you. It's a brilliant guy that runs it. I've spoken to him quite, you know, lengthily on the phone, and they only operate, I think it's Tuesday evenings, Wednesday evenings or something. But anyway, when you and I finish chatting now, Nikki, our researcher, will give you that number. I can't speak too highly of these people, Chris, and I honestly think that that's what you need to do. You need to get in touch with them. They will know exactly what you're going through because they've been through it. I don't know if all of the people that are counselling have been through it, but I suspect that they have, and they certainly are dealing with it all the time. And I think you know, before you move on and decide what sort of relationships you want, and you know, you need to talk this out, this sort of brutality and violation of you as a child, and work out what, you know, sort of get rid of all the stuff that hangs on the damage that was done to you. Then I think you'll be able to go forward wholeheartedly to live the sort of life you want to do. But I don't think you'll be able to do it until you shift all that stuff.
No, I don't. I always feel like something's holding me back. And
do you?
And Chris, you did mention the legal process at the beginning, and the fact that the police felt that they couldn't proceed and so on with a prosecution. And I know that some victims do feel very, very strongly, I mean, and very rightly, that people ought to be brought publicly to task to prevent them from doing this again in the future. And of course, nowadays, also for pursuit of compensation for what they did to you all of that time. Now, I don't know, and don't tell us any details of the case, whether these people are around, but for your information, the law has changed in the way that these people are prosecuted, and that what used to be seen as a criminal prosecution, which was very, very difficult to achieve, is now being overturned in favour of a civil prosecution, which you bring. And the reason for that is because in a criminal court you have to prove beyond reasonable doubt, and not beyond reasonable doubt, beyond any doubt, that in fact this has happened. And of course there were probably nobody around at all to witness it at the time. In a civil court, Chris, you don't have to prove that. You have to prove that on the balance of probabilities that it happened from what you say. And so you might like to consider, maybe you wouldn't, but you might like to consider that if you do feel very strongly that these people ought to be brought to task and they're still around and you think there's a possibility that they're still doing it, that you could take a civil prosecution against them, for which you may well get legal aid. Your solicitor could tell you that if you go to see them, and you may get compensation to boot. So that may be something that you want to actually consider. Best of luck to you. Now, if you'd like to talk to any of our Agony Aunts about a problem, the number to ring is 0181 614 2666. You might prefer to write to us, though, or of course you'd like us to send some flowers to someone you know. Here's the address: Agony Hour, UK Living, Teddington Studios, Teddington, Middlesex, TW11 9NT. Now next, I'm going to be talking to two women who've tried various ways, all sorts of ways, to control their body weight, and who've lost over 10 stone between them, with very different long-term outcomes. Stay with us.
Now, who'd say no to a helping hand? New Bachelor's Noodle Creations. Simply add your own ingredients, suggested on the packet, to Noodle Creations' deliciously Chinesey style noodles in Chinesey flavour sauces.
This is really,
Noodle Creations.
Really,
Chinese?
A helping hand making Chinesey easy from Bachelors.
Here's a deodorant that's really tough, yet made specially for a woman. Sure Sensive, with natural extracts of aloe vera. is so gentle that even after I shave, it doesn't sting. Sure Sensive, really tough, made specially for a woman.
Hello again, welcome back. Now, it has been said that if a woman has enough willpower, she can achieve anything, even to the extent of becoming a super slimmer. But how long does the figure last before the old eating habits and lifestyle return? And are some women just meant to be larger anyway? Well, Ros Juma has dieted since the age of 11, and at 46, she now believes that she's meant to be 15 stone, and no one should be preoccupied with food and dieting as she has been for most of her life. Joining her is Kathleen McGraw, who, after seeing her own overweight father suffer a stroke, decided to shed the pounds in order to avoid the same fate, and who's determined to keep it off. And Christine's with us as well. And between us around this table, we've tried every diet there is in the book, believe me, me. Kathy, I'm going to start with you because it isn't just that you wanted to do it for you, but you wanted to do it for you as well, lose weight. We said your dad was obviously very, very ill.
Yes.
And was that a huge shock to you?
Yes, he started having strokes early 50s and had mild strokes, and then when he was in his early 60s started having more severe strokes, and the last strokes left him totally paralysed, incontinent, can't talk, and it's very devastating when you go home, as I do quite often, to visit him. And I'm the only one in the family that has a weight problem. My sisters are size 10s and always have been.
So deeply frustrating.
Yes, very. Yes. And I decided then that, you know, his mother had died from a stroke. It's obviously hereditary. I started having blood pressure problems, and I decided that I just had to do something about it, or this was where I could see my life was going. I was just going to end up exactly the same as him and have these problems, medical problems, and I just wasn't happy. I wasn't happy being fat. I wasn't happy being overweight. I wasn't happy being unhealthy. So I decided that really I had to do something about it. And
that's been by no means straightforward, I know, because first of all you were up in Scotland and you joined this slimming club.
That's right.
And everything's bowling along nicely. And then you move down here. I mean, that's a great blow, isn't it, when you've been somewhere where you feel that you're getting the support.
That's right. And when you're comfortable with the people that you go to the class with, and you don't have a problem, and you feel they know you and they're happy with you. And we moved down here, and I was okay for about a year, and then suddenly started to feel very tired and put on lots of weight and went to the doctors, and eventually, about 5 months afterwards, they discovered I had an underactive thyroid. By which time I'd put on about 3.5 stones without really overeating at all. So then I went and saw a consultant who gave me some medication, but said basically, well, you'll have difficulty losing the weight, and sort of that was it.
Which is dreadful, because that's almost like saying, you know, here's carte blanche, you know, you can't help yourself, there's nothing that you can do about it. And you're not in the situation, and we've got to stress this, you weren't in the situation at all where you were happy to stay at the size you were. I mean, that's one situation, yours was completely different.
Yes, no, I was totally miserable. I wouldn't go anywhere. My husband had functions at work. I wouldn't go because nothing fitted me. Nothing was nice. Even if you could buy something in a large size, it wasn't fashionable. And I wasn't that old. This was late 30s, early 40s, you know, and I always felt, you know, everything that I could get to wear was things that my granny would wear, you know, and I never felt comfortable in any of it.
And how heavy were you at the heaviest?
16 stone 12.
And what sort of sizes were you wearing?
24.
Which is a huge difference, I know, looking at you now. So you had the medication, you had the thyroid problem. What about sort of turning that around? What was it that actually intervened so that you realised you actually could lose weight?
Well, I was very busy at work, doing lots of hours of overtime. I had a terrible back problem, and decided that really it wasn't anything to do with my back, it was my bust, which was so huge. It was just as I was leaning over the desk, I had this terrible back.
But you're sitting there, I know, with a 36-inch bust, which looks smaller than that from where I'm sitting. You had a 54-inch bust.
Yes, 54 and a half. Yes.
No wonder your back was hurting.
Yes, and it was very uncomfortable. And I just, you know, I would be working, eating and pigging out generally. And I just felt so unhealthy that I decided I had to do something about it. And luckily enough, a colleague at work very kindly said she would come with me, the girl that I work with, and we looked up the local papers to see what was there, and we actually thought about going to Weight Watchers. But I had done Weight Watchers in the past and didn't really like all this get round a table together and talk about, you know, do little group therapy and things like that. That's not me, I'm afraid.
Shout out who's gained half a pound and who's lost half a pound.
And we noticed the Rosemary Conley one, and that's an actual exercise as well as diet class. So we decided, and that was in Twickenham, which is quite local, so we decided we would go and enrol there. And I mean, it was quite horrendous the first evening. You know, I thought I was the fattest there and I was the biggest in the class.
She made you walk to the class, didn't she? That actually killed you.
Yes. I didn't have a breath between I got there. I thought I'd die. And I mean, the exercise was just, well, you know, I couldn't do anything. You know, I mean, even the stretch was unbelievable. But after the first week, and I ate lots of food. I mean, it's not a restrictive lettuce, cucumber thing we've done. It's lots of food. And I ate lots of food and I went back and I'd lost 10 pounds. And I thought, oh God, this is wonderful, you know. Yeah. And then I kept on the diet, but the next week I went and I'd actually put on 2 pounds, but they just explained that's your body just sort of adjusting itself. And I thought, well, that's okay, I really don't care, it's going down, it's not going up. And my attitude was, well, every week I lose a pound, I've not gained a pound or I've not gained 2 pounds. So it has to be constructive. And the start of the diet was fine. I mean, my boss at work did a chart, a graph, and I used to have these graphs going down, you know, as each stone, and you know, and it was wonderful, and I enjoyed it. I started the exercise, then I started going to another exercise class, and now I do 5 a week.
Amazing.
And I walk 50, 60 miles every week, and I love it, and it's changed my life completely. I mean,
now you're really happy with yourself as you are doing all of that.
Yes.
Let's talk to Ros, because you've chosen a different route, and you look just as marvellous sitting there and confident and so on, but you went through years and years of confidence-sapping years from being a kid, actually watching everything you ate and feeling guilty and disgusted with yourself if you had anything fattening, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, this really started from when I was a child and I was teased at school, and I started off as a very big baby. I mean, I was 9 pounds 12 and I wanted to be a chubby toddler, a fat child. And by the time I was 11, I felt that I had to do something about it. And my mother has always been a big person as well. We had a book of about 60 diets in the house, and I think we followed virtually every diet in the book.
And you used to live for days. You did all the crazy ones, didn't you? I'm going to live for 3 days on a banana, or I'm going to have 3 eggs, each one cooked differently in the course of it. Never really a normal pattern of eating.
No, never. And I remember taking Rivita and cottage cheese for packed lunch at school and feeling hungry and miserable, especially in the cold weather. And maybe it's not so hard at this time of year, but in the middle of winter, it's grim. And this continued. And then I got married quite young and started having children. And with each baby, the weight went on, and then I would starve myself virtually and panic afterwards. The weight would go down, up and down, 6 children. And at the end of all that, I started to be a mature student, and I did teacher training and took a holiday job, which turned out to be for the Cambridge Diet Company. And I was really a guinea pig for the customers who were coming, and was given free supplies of this stuff. And at the time I thought, well, this is fine. I was probably round about the weight I am now. And I would have these 3 milkshakes a day, and I was working quite long hours, so finishing about 7 in the evening, and I wasn't having any particular sort of social life or anything else to do. And 3 very uncomfortable days, sort of headaches and feeling ravenously hungry, and after that your body actually closes off and goes into a state called ketosis, and your brain is tricked into thinking that you're in a state of starvation, you're not going to suffer anymore. You actually forget to eat unless you look at the clock. And the weight fell off, and I should say during this time I was selling this stuff to the public. I'm thinking, oh, how ridiculous it is that these women are coming and asking for supplies of this stuff, and they are stones lighter than me, and why are they thinking there's something wrong with them? They'd perhaps be a stone or 7 pounds overweight, I say in inverted commas.
But deeply unhappy with their own shape. And for those people who don't know, obviously Cambridge Diet is one of those, of a huge variety of diet supplements sold, where you're substituting meals with milkshakes that are very often filled with cellulose to make you feel full for longer, or biscuits to substitute meals. I mean, the problem with all of those, Christian, is that you can't eat or live on cellulose milkshakes for the rest of your life, can you?
I mean, I think that's why I personally don't, if somebody wants to lose weight, I would never recommend one of those methods, because I just think it's a totally unrealistic way of living. In fact, you know, people are kind of going back to their lonely bedsit and having their one, you know, chocolate bar or something. I mean, I think it actually encourages antisocial behaviour almost, and it encourages even more of a focus on weight. And I think for most people, when they're at their happiest, it's when they are relaxed about themselves, they've come to love themselves as they are, you know, they're happy in their social life and everything. You can't really be happy on one chocolate bar or whatever it is back in a bedsit, you know.
Even particularly social, if every time you go out you feel, well, you can't actually eat a meal along with other people. I know from experience, whenever I've dieted, you know, it's always been the case that it's only when I'm on a diet that I think about food. And when you're on a diet, you think about nothing but food. I mean, your attitude, I know you said that you felt, Ros, that you became almost like an anorexic in your attitude to food, almost disgusted by the amount your family were eating around you, for example.
Yes, it seemed really bizarre just to see people putting food into their mouths, and I imagined it sort of travelling through their bodies, and I almost thought, well, this is disgusting, and I could be quite detached about it. I'd go and cook the meal, and I'd sit there, and normally I really enjoy food, and I'd sit there and watch them and feel nothing at all and not want to join in, and it just seemed almost like an extra chore and something taking up the time.
Now, you lost your 5 stone, so we say that obviously worked, the Cambridge diet, and taking the weight off, but you were still intensely miserable. I mean, obviously the very things that you've just told us show that you were still very, very anxious about everything, anxious about food, anxious about the way you looked. It hadn't, unlike Kathleen here, it hadn't transformed your life for the better, losing your 5 stone.
No, it hadn't, and I must say I felt a slight sense of annoyance. Maybe it's something to do with being mature, and, you know, I was around about my 40s when I'd just got my degree, and yet all the congratulations and adulation was coming from the fact that I'd lost this weight, and I thought, well, hang on a minute, look, I've done something a little bit more important than that here. I think I've really achieved something in getting a degree, you know, after 6 children and after the age of 40. But everybody's just looking at my body, and...
Do you know, I think that, actually, it's really interesting that you've said this, because I think that this is the sort of the crux of the whole thing, because although we all say, oh, you know, you should eat what you like and feel good about yourself, and, you know, your man probably loves you as you are, and all of those things, the really annoying thing is that when you do lose just a few pounds, everybody comes out of the woodwork and says, you look, what have you been doing? You're looking great. See, that's very irritating.
It is, because, as you say, it makes you feel it's the only thing that's worthwhile to do. But I think another important thing you said there, you said you were in your 40s and you suddenly realised this. And, I mean, we've done programmes here where women have been talking about the fact that they got to their 40s and far from going through, you know, a midlife crisis where everything's been absolutely dreadful, they've reached a stage where they thought, no, hang on a minute, what has it been that's been making me unhappy up until 40 or mid-40s? Well, I know what it is. In your case, you know, it's dieting. And I'm not going to make myself unhappy for the next 40 or 50 or 60 years. I'm going to do something different. Was it literally with you that you thought, I am not meant to be 5 stone lighter, I am not happy, I'm not the Ros that I want to be, and I'm going to, you know, chuck the diet books away?
Yes, that was it. I went through a period of personal change, I suppose, and after I'd taken this degree and everything else, I trained to become an assertiveness teacher as well, and I went through personal therapy, and I think I matured and I changed as a person, and following on from that, I now actually work as a diet breaker facilitator, and this is working with groups of women, encouraging them to accept themselves the way they are and feel good about themselves. And I think it's really important for people to realise that they come in different shapes and sizes. I mean, once I stopped taking this liquid milkshake, I didn't suddenly start gorging and eating chocolate and chips and things. I've never liked that to start with. Mostly what I eat is actually pasta and tuna fish. It's convenient, it's quick, the whole family enjoy it. And my weight has gradually crept on, and when was this? 1989 I stopped. And I haven't gone up and up and up. I've reached a certain point and stopped.
Which is very interesting, that you actually level out. I mean, you said this is borne out very much by friends of yours who've dieted all their lives and then stopped.
They've been on this kind of roller coaster, you know, and the diet and then the sort of eating what they call normally. But I don't think that is normal, because I think what happens is they come on this off the diet and there's this sort of sense of relief, and then they go out and they eat stupidly. And I think really it's all a question, isn't it, of not dieting, but adapting a different way of life. Now, most people actually, really, as they get older, they start eating more sensibly, and they start eating things that they think are healthy for them, because as your own sense of your own mortality, something, you start thinking about this. And I think that then very often you find when people stop this, alternate systems, as it were, they kind of level out, And let's face it, some of us, if we dieted forever, we are not going to be Cindy Crawford. We're not that shape.
And even Cindy Crawford, as they once told me when I interviewed her, that she hated her fat thighs. Well, there you go.
Eat your heart out.
Yes. It's like that you will reach a sort of plateau that's right for you. I mean, Catherine, is this a worry for you, or do you feel, right, well, I have actually changed all the things that made me very, very overweight in the first place. I'm not going to sort of suddenly stop something. It's not as if I'm stopping a diet where I'm taking, a biscuit and a milkshake every day. This can go on.
Well, I've never done those kind of diets where you eat diet milkshakes and things. I just never fancied them and didn't think they would do you any good. But I mean, Rosemary Conley's is really healthy eating. It's low fat, lots of food, lots of fat. It's changing your eating habits. Instead of having a fried breakfast in the morning, I'm having muesli and fresh orange juice. You eat lots of food. If you don't eat enough, you don't lose weight. It's as simple as that. You don't stimulate your metabolism, so there's nothing there to work against it. So you have to eat. You eat 3 regular meals and you snack on fruit if that's what you want. I mean, I'm not perfect. I'm never perfect. And there are times when obviously you eat cheat, as you say. But I don't feel guilty about it because, if I want to eat it, I'll eat it.
That's wonderful. I think it's something which is virtually unknown to men, is the idea that you put a Mars bar in your mouth and think, oh, I shouldn't have had that immediately afterwards, rather than having thoroughly enjoyed it at the time. And it's a dreadful fact. I don't know a woman who doesn't believe that losing a stone will be her passport to perfect happiness. And it's so obviously ridiculous. But thank you both very much indeed for coming in. I'm sure that all over the country there are women who are sitting watching this moment going, yes, yes, that's me, one or the other. Either I'm going to keep it off, or I'm happy with where I am, or I've got to go on a diet. And it's just a roller coaster. Thank you very, very much indeed for coming in. Christine's going to stay with us, of course. We're taking your phone calls next, so join us after the break.
The eggs hatch. At once, the first instinct of the young is to cry out for food.
You can say that again.
And while the female devotes herself to caring for her brood, the male, the provider, goes out to forage. Then, inevitably, the moment comes when the young are ready to spread their wings and leave the nest. And now, the nest is empty.
Oh, that was pure skill.
Hello. Nice to see you. Hi, Mum. How you doing?
How you doing there, big brother?
Packed with meat and vitamins, Prime helps keep your dog in his prime.
Hello, welcome back. Christine's still with me, of course, and we're taking some more of your phone calls. Terry's on the line. Hello, Terry.
Hello.
Hello, Terry. What's your situation?
Well, I've just split up from my girlfriend of 6 months. Now, I'm very upset that it's happened and quite angry under the circumstances, as to how it's come about, really.
Really? What happened?
Well, what it was, she told me when I started to go with it that she had a drinking problem.
Yes.
But she had given it up for about a year previously.
So,
I decided that I would keep on going out with her and try and help her out and try and get some assistance again. It didn't seem to happen. The drinking seemed to carry on, and it did put the relationship under quite a bit of stress. And it got to one stage where I was in work one night, and she rang me, and I don't think I've explained, drinking actually makes her quite depressed. And she did say that she was about to kill herself and put the phone down. Had to leave work, go to her house, make sure she was okay till the parents came home, then return back to work. Now this has gone on and off for about 6 months. And it sort of came to a head when we went to a national sports event about 2 weeks ago. Now she wasn't driving that day, so she was driving, but she wasn't drinking. Now the bar was free, and I was drinking. And I was getting a bit run down, and I was a bit fed up with a few things. And because I'd had a drink, I had actually took her to one side and and I suppose in a way told her off for the way she'd been for the past 6 months.
Yes.
Now later that night she told me that, she said basically, you ruined my day out, and I don't want to see you again.
Oh dear.
Now,
well, what about her ruining your previous 6 months? Didn't that count?
Well, I tried to explain that to her.
Yeah.
See, the difficulty was I did fall in love with her, so I suppose I tried to not so much overlook the little arguments and the embarrassing times out in pubs it's caused.
Yeah.
I tried more to understand it.
Yes.
Now, I tried to explain this to her.
Yes.
But she said people are different. I said, you can perhaps... She said, you can perhaps forgive me for those things, but I can't forgive you for ruining my day out.
Oh, dear.
And, so it sort of ended, and I feel very, very angry because it seems unfair, and I'm sort of stuck with it.
Well, it not only seems unfair, I mean, it seems really unjust because you'd been investing a lot of yourself and your time and your patience in those 6 months, hadn't you?
I had, yeah.
And in a kind of way, you may have been feeling through those 6 months, although you may not have allowed yourself to feel it because you were in love and everything, that while, you know, it was kind of like one-way traffic almost, that you were making the relationship work. You were sort of being positive, you were overlooking the negative things, and what were you getting back from her? And then you sort of blow your top on one day when you know, I mean, which is in a sort of way, I hope you'll forgive my saying this, but it's a rather male way of doing things in a kind of way. You know, it would have been better if maybe 3 months previously you'd sat down with her and said, I'm really, you know, getting really fed up with how things are going on, but in a kind of way you don't want that scene, so you wait until you're really fired up, and as you say, you've had a drink, and then out it all tumbles, and of course you feel, I suppose, well, I'm glad I got that off my chest, and meanwhile she's saying you've ruined my life, you know, so very difficult, isn't it? And I'm sure that you still have a lot of anger because after all you have, as I say, invested a great deal into this relationship, haven't you?
Yes, yeah.
Now, is there any point of contact with her at all now?
Well, I mean, I can still phone her, but I mean, since that particular weekend, I have been round on a couple of weekends to try and talk to her, try and explain. I have apologised for spoiling her day. I have apologised, but she said, to be quite honest, Terry, she said, I don't love you anymore. You ruined that day and I can't forgive you.
Well,
and that's as far as I can get, and that makes me very angry, really.
Well, I'm sure you are very angry, but can I just say that maybe if we were to talk about this in 6 months, and maybe we will talk about this in 6 months, I just have a feeling that you would come back to me and say, well, I did come to understand that if somebody could be that volatile, not only do they drink heavily, and I'm always, you know, on tenterhooks, it disrupts my work schedule, I don't know if we go out to a party, if I'm going to be totally embarrassed by her behaviour or her loudmouth or what have you. So there's all of that, plus the fact that she would be so, you know, as I say, so volatile that she gets so upset by you criticising her and then says, that's it, I don't love you. I mean, here is one very unbalanced lady, and also somebody that was not prepared really to accept your help or prepared to go and get herself appropriate help. And I really think, I know it's hard for you to see this at the moment, but I think, as I say, in about 6 months you'll say, I really am better off without her. You'll fall in love again. I know at the moment you don't feel you will. What I would suggest, Terry, actually, is you go along to Relate. I know you're not in a relationship at the moment, but go along and talk to them, get all this stuff about the argument out of your system, also get all the anger out of your system that you've kind of, you know, you tried very hard with this relationship and you've been slapped in the face, really, and offload it all, and then I think you'll be ready to go on, and suddenly the world will be full of beautiful girls, and you know, you will be better off, I honestly think.
Because the worst thing you could possibly do, Terry, of course, is you've said over and over again to us, you mentioned the word anger or angry, and you don't want to take that on into another relationship, you know, an anger against women because of the way that she's behaved, because possibly she can't help herself, because she's in the grips of an addiction there. But best of luck to you. Thanks very much for calling. Betty's on the line. Hello, Betty.
Hello.
Hello, Betty. What's the matter?
I've been married for 14 years, my second marriage.
Yes.
I have 2 children from my first marriage and 2 from the second.
Yeah.
6 months into my marriage, I discovered that men could be violent and drunk, and I won't go into detail, but he was adulterous, etc., etc.
Adulterous, did you say?
Oh, yes, more than once I found out.
Right.
He worked away from home.
Yes.
And because he was on a long contract, we bought a caravan.
Yes.
I'm a midwife. I work 4 nights a week. I went up 3 nights a week.
Yeah.
This is 5 years ago now, but it's not stopped.
Yeah.
And I found my personal stuff put away. And he said it's because he was letting someone use the shower, blah, blah, blah. Anyway,
oh, really?
I got a call on Labour Ward to say he'd met someone else. And 4 days later, he came home, usual, nothing wrong, you know.
Yes.
And 4 weeks later, we got a positive pregnancy test given to him. This was her third child by her third married man.
Oh, dear.
Anyway, he came home. I took him back after much soul-searching, but I went up to see her.
Yes.
And he told her we were separated, etc., etc., the usual.
The old lines.
Because I had been unfaithful, and I'd never been unfaithful.
No.
Anyway, came home, and he was impotent for 2 years. He didn't touch me at all, except to punch me, and what have you. And in the end, he assaulted me so badly that my oldest children said, court. So he was taken to court.
Yes.
It was attempted murder and reduced to ABH. And
Right.
he got fined £200. Now, he was deported to Scotland.
Mm.
The year he was in Scotland, he was everything I could ever want.
Really?
He became totally besotted with me.
Yes.
He would ring me 15 times a night at work.
Yeah.
I got poetry, cards, this, that and the other.
Yes.
You know, I went up to see him. Sex was fantastic, just like it used to be.
Yes.
I let him come home for Christmas.
Yeah.
This is 3 years ago now.
Yeah.
And he got it into his head that it was for good, and I wouldn't let him stay.
Right.
No.
So
on his way back up to Scotland, he called in to see her.
Yeah.
He didn't contact me. He moved back in with her.
Yeah.
Then he started to contact me, crying, wanted to come home, didn't want to be there.
Mm.
Pretended to go and see his father in Scotland, came to see me.
Mm.
I still have my reservations.
Mm.
And the kids wanted him back.
Mm.
He wasn't allowed 10p to phone his children, and what he had to do was tell her that our child was in ITU so he could visit. And he said that would end the relationship because she wouldn't stand for it.
Right.
And I stupidly said I wouldn't see him homeless.
Yeah.
And he came back. He took me out. We went to bed.
Yes.
He failed.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
I understand that.
Yes.
And I kept him with his friends for a month, although
Yeah.
he went to see her and slept with her.
Yeah.
And guess what?
She got pregnant again, I suppose.
Yes, 37 years old, second pill failure.
Now, Betty, could we now move right bang up to date here? What's the situation right now?
Well, it's my bitterness and anger in that he's come back.
Yes.
And I haven't even had a cuddle in 16 months.
Right. So he's with you.
Yeah.
But everything's hopeless.
He can't. He says if that's all that's wrong, we are going to relate on August the 7th.
Right.
He's so macho. He thinks it's all a humiliation.
Yes.
And I just feel bitter because I had 5 miscarriages to give him a son.
Yes.
And this woman just.
Yes.
And you're a massive bitterness, and
of course you
obviously
are.
terribly upset. We can hear
At the
how
moment,
upset
yeah.
you are.
Yeah.
Because I gave up when the last baby was due.
Yes.
I couldn't carry on with my midwifery, and I resigned.
Yes.
And what he doesn't realise is it's a child's birthday this week, and he hasn't even realised.
No. And I think the other thing, of course, is that, you know, to have all these problems with pregnancies and things, and plus the girlfriend getting pregnant, and then you're a midwife, I mean, that's a real cruel irony, isn't it? Because you're delivering other people's healthy babies all the time, and it must be very harsh. Now, Betty, I think... Thank you for phoning us today. I think the fact that you are, going to relate is clearly going to make a big difference to you. And I think that once he gets it out of his head that this is a sort of non-macho thing to do, and I think they'll knock that out of him fairly quickly, I think the great thing will be that there should be, I mean, the fact he's agreed to go with you, that's one very positive thing. The second thing is that I think that he will then begin working with you properly, and he won't be able to hide with these various lies and things, not in front of one of these counsellors, because they are used to spotting the flaws in people's arguments and everything. And I sincerely hope that you can build something much more positive out of this. But I think he has got to take on board your terrible grief about the miscarriages and various things, your terrible unhappiness about the girlfriend getting pregnant, your terrible unhappiness at his behaviour, at his lying to you, cheating generally, and he's got to do some remedial work. He's got to make this better for you. And I sincerely hope that if you can work together with Relate, this will happen. If not, I don't know, because, I mean, at the moment, it would seem to me that this man is making you far more unhappy than he's making you happy, and you may have to look at that and think, well, where do I go in the future? But give Relate a chance first, and then maybe in another month come back to us.
Absolutely, because Betty, talking to us, the scales are away from your eyes, and I think they ought to stay away from your eyes, even going into this whole process. But best of luck to you. Come back to us. Let us know how you get on. We're coming back after the break looking at your letters, so stay with us.
As time goes by, you notice skin losing firmness and fine lines appearing here on the surface. So what can we do? Clinical tests prove that a new cream from Oil of Ulay can help. Enriched with vitamin E and ceramides, it enhances the unique natural springs found at the surface of the skin to help restore the feeling of firmness and smooth away the appearance of fine lines and wrinkles in under 14 days. And the name? Wrinkle Smoothing Cream from Oil of Ulay.
You've been wasting money on that machine again, haven't you? Do something useful. Go and get me some shopping.
Softener and detergent? Hang on, don't need softener. So I'm a money waster, eh?
Come on. Clean and soft. Bet this bowl's expensive.
It cost £1 less than the usual too, which could come in handy for an extra lottery ticket.
Hello, welcome back. Before we look at some of your letters about problems, it's Man of the Hour time. Today's nomination is Rod Seal. Let's take a look at you, Rod. Now, Rod, I know you look mean, mad and moody in that, but we know from the wider photograph that you're in fact watching the telly. This is the letter that we've had about you. I'd like to nominate my husband, Rod, as Man of the Hour. Basically, we separated for a while, and I was at this time pregnant with another man's baby. The baby's father didn't want to know, and at this time my husband and I reconciled. Since this time, he has supported me in my pregnancy and was present at the birth of my son. We have 2 older children of our own who are 13 and 15, and he treats my son just as he did our own children. I can't thank him enough for his support and his willingness to take his turn when my son has a sleepless night. My 18-month-old son will never know his biological father, but he'll always benefit from having a very special dad all of his own. During our hectic lifestyle, I never have time to say a special thank you, and I have to say I sometimes take Rod's love for granted, but if I did have the time, I would always acknowledge my love for my own special friend who has enabled me to move forward, because I did reject my baby when he was born, but my husband took care of him and showed me how to love again, and this is Sally. Well, Sally, he's obviously an exceptional man, and you have an exceptional relationship and a happy little family made of your own now, and thank you very much indeed for writing to us. As far as Rod's concerned, for being our Man of the Hour today, we're going to send him a t-shirt and a UK Living pen as well for being featured today. Thank you very much indeed for writing to us. Now, what about some of the other letters? This is very relevant, actually, because of the programme today. This is Anne writing, Christine. She says, I've recently come off a regular dose of laxatives. They help me feel and look good, but I was always afraid that when I stopped, I would rapidly gain weight. I have gained a few pounds, but I've managed to keep my weight down with Chinese slimming pills. But these few pounds make me unhappy. I spend so much of my money on slimming pills and so on that I feel guilty. I've been like this for years, but I really decided at my climax of laxative abuse that I had to stop. I've now started smoking as it keeps my weight down and it makes me feel good. But I can't help but wonder how good I looked on laxatives. I am contemplating taking some more. I just want to look in the mirror and not have to see the bad points, but shine as if I'm proud to be me. I can't tell anyone about this, as people think that I'm lovely and happy all the time. They don't see what's behind the smiling face. I think about weight, food and body image all the time. I wake up in the morning and it's the first thing that enters my head. I think, get up quickly to kick off my metabolism, then take my pills with hot water, and then have a cigarette. Why is my mind so one track?
Well, Anne, I mean, I really think that your problem has got to such a really... it's just been blown out of all proportion. I mean, I think that what you're talking about is a real illness here. Because, I mean, if you Well, first of all, you've presumably watched the rest of the programme, so I'm sure you do know that you are not alone in how you feel about your own body image. But I do think that what you've got is to a greater extent than many people who share the same problem. As we were saying earlier, in effect, virtually every woman shares it to some extent or another, but you've just, you're so focused on it now that I don't think you can see anything else. I mean, everything in your life you're almost like an alcoholic. I mean, instead of getting up and wondering how soon you can get your first drink, you're wondering how soon you can kick your metabolism into touch and how you can get your slimming pills. This is not normal life. And what really worries me, hearing Catherine reading this letter, is that it's almost like you've got a death wish. I mean, any prolonged use of something like laxatives is going to ruin your insides. You're smoking now. I mean, you do know, don't you, that smoking is not good for you. You know, these Chinese slimming pills, God alone knows what might be in those. I want you to really take stock here. You've done a very sensible thing in contacting us. There's a very good organisation called the Eating Disorders Association. It's based in Norwich. I want you to pick up the phone to them, to directory inquiries, ask for that number and get in touch with them, because you are not in control of anything in your life here. And I find this deeply worrying. There's also Caroline. Actually, I'll get Catherine to tell you about
We've
this.
featured this particular group. They're based in Luton, so you can get them through Luton directory inquiries. On the programme before, they deal with anorexics and bulimics, and I'm sure that you know that you have become obsessive about your weight, and who knows which category you fall into here. But the girl who runs it is excellent, and not only that, she's a former anorexic. It's not a doctor talking to you who's never been through this yourself, and that makes a huge difference, doesn't it?
I think it does, and I think that's true also about the Norwich group. You know that it's not medical, it's support and everything, but you really need it, and I really would urge you to avail yourself of it.
If you have any difficulty getting those numbers, please get in touch with us. Now, if you'd like to take part in the programme, if you'd like to come into the studio, if you'd like to ring Donna or Christine, or you prefer to write to us about a problem, here's where we are. This is our address and phone number. It's Agony Hour, UK Living, Teddington Studios, Teddington, Middlesex, TW11 9NT. Phone number 0181 614 2666. This is the last programme when I'm going to be with you for a while. Tina Baker is going to be here, and I hope you'll join her. She'll be here with Donna and Christine, because I'm off for my latest production. That's My Baby Sam's brother or sister. I'll see you very soon at the end of the year. Bye-bye.
Cookery, fashion, health, pets and pampering, plus feature articles, all in Living Magazine. Next.
Get the healthy perspective.
Sad to say, Britain has a very serious heart disease problem.
Get fit with the celebrity workout.
I'm married to a younger man, so I have to keep fit.
Get advice on the dog spot.
There is a new invention, which is a female condom, which comes in a pack just like this.
And get the statistics straight.
1 in 10 men and 1 in 6 women are on a diet.
Get the full treatment this morning at 9 on UK Living. Hear what's going on. Kilroy, today at 12 on UK Living. These contestants are in love. These contestants are playing
Infatuation.
Just say yes.
Tonight?
No.
He's playing Cupid on,
Infatuation.
trying his best to make their dreams come true.
What do you look for in a man?
Lovely red lips.
Definitely well proportioned down below.
Yes, it's a brand new series of
Infatuation. Would you like to start a relationship?
No.
Oh, okay, I'll do.
Infatuation.
with Bob Eubanks.
Infatuation.
Today at 4
Infatuation.
on UK Living.
Infatuation.
These women are closer than sisters and are friends for life. But even best friends hide things from each other. Secrets that are painful to keep.
Is there a cure? Pregnancy is the best chance for a cure. I want to have a baby.
I'm going to be away for a while. At least 6 weeks.
The truth is, you want Bob back and you're afraid to go after him.
Sometimes secrets are hard to hide.
Honey, I'm your husband. Remember, you're supposed to trust me, okay?
I'm confused, and I don't know how to deal with it.
No, I'm not cheating.
You've become a major fantasy in my life.
And some secrets terrifying to confront.
I thought we were in the middle of a really great relationship.
My therapist thinks it's not a good idea for me to begin